Hi, Tamily. Thanks for joining interview 176 featuring Sarah. Sarah has a really awesome IG handle called Sweatband Tam. So if you're not following her, you can look her up pretty easily and give her a quick follow. And we're just going to get her added to the interview and get started. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the interview. Nice to see you again, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I'm glad we did our test. We get all the little kinks worked out in advance so that way we get
Yeah.
a smooth, easy chat. Um, we're really excited to have you as interview 176. We have a ton,
176.
isn't it crazy? There's been so many.
You all are amazing.
It's mostly Suzanne and Nicole and Kristen, to be honest with you, but it's like a dream team of, awesome friends. And the best part is we just get to know all of our friends across the world a little bit better, one at a time every week. So
You remind me of like my 3-year-old is a little shy right now, so whenever there's a new kid, I'm like, there's a new friend right there.
new friends are my favorite. And with the family, it's great because it's like instant friends, even if you've never met in person. We forge these really strong and great relationships. So I guess without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll also take questions from the chat as those come up. So feel free to type them in if you guys are waiting. But let's go ahead and start. And if you don't mind, I would love to start with the meaning behind your Instagram handle because it was one of the first things that caught my eye. And I love it so much. So tell me, how did you come up with that?
Oh my God, yes. So I was a lurker on Instagram for many months. So I started streaming in January. I got onto Instagram, I don't know, spring, and then I finally got up the courage to join myself in like mid to late summer.
Okay.
I was like, what could I possibly say about myself in this name? And God's honest truth is I sweat like, I don't know, like I'm taking a bath. Like every time I do the workout, I've always been a tomato person. Like anytime I exert myself, it's like, are you okay? You are red. And so I just thought it was funny. Like, I'm just gonna be that person rocking the like 80s sweatband, no matter the style of the day.
Well, and it helps protect your hair a little bit too, right? So you
Helps protect my hair.
can.
Absolutely, because I'm not, that's important.
Yes, it is important. Well, I love that. I think it's cute and it's something unique. And you have your actual name in your profile. Sometimes it can be a challenge if we don't know someone's name. So be like, "Hi, Sweatband Tam."
That's by sheer accident. I'm not savvy, so the fact that my name is there is by like the Instagram God's grace. I like want this to be like my own like portal to just the Tam world.
Yeah.
And one of my people from the Tibetan Buddhist community like liked a video, and I was like, Yudrin, how are you here? Like you have gone through the portal into this other universe. She's like, you just got recommended to me on my
Oh.
page. I was like, worlds collide so easily.
Well, maybe, from other parts of your life, people want to learn about what you're doing too. I think most people find it fascinating when they see a suggestion to follow somebody and they're like, what are those moves or what is they're doing?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Once in a while, I'll get messages. They're like, how many reps of that do you do? Or they did the one workout. I'm like, no, I'm just lazy. I just post one, 30 seconds or something. But
Oh, they're like, do you do that one move for 30 minutes?
I think that's what they think. So it always makes me giggle a little bit. Well, thank you for sharing the meaning behind your name. I love it. And I thought, we saw a little bit about this in the post to announce the interview, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey because you've been doing the method for a long time.
Yeah, so I started in 2014, maybe late 2013. I was gonna get married, and like everyone, I wanted to look nice.
Sure.
Um, and I just saw like a Gwyneth Paltrow thing, kind of the huge, and I started doing metamorphosis.
Okay.
My husband's really savvy on the internet and in the dark arts of the internet, so he found like metamorphosis bootleg for me. I will sadly confess to all of the TAM people, I'm so sorry, but I did start illegally, and which was great for me because I would never have paid. I needed like a doorway that was free. And I did the whatever the pear shape one. That was my thing. And oh my Lord, like I got crazy results. And like I didn't perform. You know, everyone's always about like perform it. I was like going through the motions like 1,000%. I was on the road interpreting for a llama, so I would use like water bottles for weights.
Yeah.
And do like the dance cardio on whatever carpet I happened to be on at 6 a.m, you know, trying not to wake up Tibetan llamas next door. And then I got married and I kept doing it. We moved to Colorado and I kept doing it. I had the owner of the house we first moved into the basement, and she complained. She's like, I would like you to not do whatever it is that you're doing that sounds like horses. And I was like, no, I pay to live here. Like I get to do this. So I was really adamant. So I kept doing it then. And then I got pregnant.
Okay.
I got pregnant with my first child and I switched to the pregnancy DVD. Okay. And I did the pregnancy project and then I gave birth and then I did the post-pregnancy. Pretty sure all of these were bootlegged. And then
we won't tell.
Okay. And then I was starting to feel, and then that was all. Then I had an infant. And for all the women who, I see women who are like 1 to 2 months postpartum doing, I'm like, this is just me. More power to you. But for me, I want to be like, slow down. You just had a baby. Like, you just had a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my 2 cents. So then I had just had a baby and I was slowing down. And then I was starting to feel like my body was coming back to myself when I had a surprise second pregnancy. This little bliss baby was like, I want to be born. I was like, oh boy, I should have gone to the dentist. And there was no Tracy Anderson method at that time. That was like nursing and being pregnant and like,
yeah.
I nursed through that whole pregnancy and had hyperemesis, which is when you have uncontrolled vomiting.
Oh gosh.
So delightful.
Yeah.
So I was bedridden for 12 weeks.
Whoa.
And my body responded by just holding weight. So I gained 85 pounds in my second pregnancy. Wow. But I had a very amazing birth in my bedroom. They were both born in my bedroom. Sure. And then I had pretty severe diastasis.
Okay.
So I knew this was my last pregnancy. Husband got fixed. And I wanted to mindfully close the diastasis. I think it had actually started in my first pregnancy because there's a lot of like, I'm gonna like get off my little cushion here. There's a lot of like this like opening, and I didn't have the ability to like open my upper back without splaying my ribs. And I'm learning now, it took me a long time to learn how to close my ribs and open my shoulders at the same time. And so that was like 2 years of physical therapy and just really consciously, I wanted my uterus to involute in a good position. Yep. I'm like thinking of Nat Glow, the physical therapist, who will be like, I know what involute is. And I also at that time got really interested in biomechanics. Okay. So my movement crush is named Katie Bowman. I have 2, of course, Tracy Anderson and then Katie Bowman. I had coffee, which I don't usually drink because my 3-year-old had a nightmare and climbed into my bed. And I was like, not today. So I had coffee, so I'm a little like excited. So you can stop me at any time. And also you can ask me anything at any time. If anything I'm saying doesn't make sense or you're like, oh, what is that? Just succinctly, the idea of Katie Bowman's work is that humans have evolved to move. Mm-hmm. We are moving animals and we require movement in the same way we require vitamins and minerals from food. So she has like mineral and vitamin movements. And they're like squats, reaches, hanging, walking. She says humans need to walk like a good 5 miles a day just for our animal health. So I got really interested in that. And so I was working with a sustainable movement therapist virtually because of the pandemic, doing things like farmer carries and like just how to, and I was submitting videos to her, and then she would comment on my form and then send it back. And I was like, if I'm doing this, I might as well try Tracy Anderson again. Like, I feel like she was like, you're good. Like, you can do whatever you want now. Because I was really wanting to close this gap.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, as much as I wish it wasn't true, like, I do care about the shape and size of my body. And it was still like a little bit of a pillow. I was still like a pillow for my babies. So I started about a year ago back into the method. And then I started back with Metamorphosis, and I did the whole thing. And then I started streaming in January.
Okay. And when you started streaming, did you go into intermediate, or kind of what was your path?
I started an intermediate, yeah.
That's good.
Started intermediate, and I started with dance cardio because that's what I was used to from Metamorphosis. And then I was like, holy fuck, like this is like, after that 90 minutes, I say that because it was like at least 2 hours somehow every time. I was like, oh my God. And then I would go to my kids like, what do you want to do? And finally I was like, maybe I should focus just on the mat for a little bit.
Yeah. It's an evolution for sure, and you could probably burn out pretty fast if you jump back in, to doing something that feels so long and so tiring. Plus, trying to mother and raise two young children.
I have a full-time job. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. So what class do you predominantly do now? Are you still an intermediate, or have you switched to do something different?
The short answer is I do whatever class feels good on me that week.
Okay.
So because I have a little bit of lordosis in my lumbar spine, if there's a class that activates that and I have a hard time engaging in my core, I try to not do that class. So right now it's looking like some advanced, some intermediate in a given week. It's kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
I was very like, you do one class for a week and then you do another class for a week. And now I'm like, what else is there?
You're like dealer's choice of the day.
Yeah.
That's good.
For a second, the advanced made me really psyched out. I would get psyched out. I was like, I can't, this is advanced. I can't possibly. And now, I don't know, sometimes the advanced feels easier than the intermediate. Intermediate can be really hard.
It can. I think all the classes are hard if you are taking the time to really perform it.
Yeah.
As soon as I hear someone says like intermediate's easy or something, I'm like, oh, there's a lot more you can probably get out of that class. And really, and just controlling your body, controlling yourself through the moves, and even picking up the pace. So it's good to make lives if that's an option for you, because you start to feel the difference between the dojo and what does a live class feel like, and all of the things.
So I haven't upgraded to the lives. I feel like it's a dirty secret.
It's not.
It's the cost is kind of prohibitive for me.
Sure.
And then also I don't have time in my schedule to like see what class looks good for the day. Like if I don't get it in before 8 a.m., like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I would love to. I would love to like get the magazine and hear the Ask Tracy's. But yeah, I've been fine without the lives. Sorry, everybody. And also, if I need a new OC, I can just do one of the arm toners instead of, and it's fine. It's great.
Oh yeah, there's so much that you can work with in the actual content of the subscription that you could never run out of things to do. So yeah, I don't think everybody's doing the lives. I just meant in general, if it's available to you, or even if you could try it once in a while, it is a bit of a different experience, and the ability to follow other trainers. And then of course, I guess you get to hear popular music, which for me is like, it's the only time I'm ever going to listen to the music. Otherwise I play my own always.
Yeah. Can you like share music with me because I'm in a stage of life where I'm not gonna like sit through my music and be like, what do I want? I don't have that kind of like inspiration. So I'm just like, let's go with some, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. The music that's playing on the video.
Oh, yeah, I call that like the you know, affordable, non-copyrighted music is what's
Yeah.
available. I'm happy to share playlists. Mine, I don't necessarily consider the class and then make a playlist. I make a playlist for the month and then add
Oh,
to it that I like. And I like a lot of variety. So if you listen to my playlist, I hope you like funk because that's like
I
my,
love funk. I love funk.
yeah. Okay. I'll send you some. If you have Spotify, I'll
Yeah.
the links and you can check it out.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I listened to Olivia
yeah.
Elias has a playlist on Spotify, a public playlist for her classes in the studio. And I listened to that, but honestly, there was one time where I was like, I'm too old for this playlist. Like, there's a lot of like really like sexual songs, and I'm like,
Oh,
la la la. I'm not there anymore.
yeah. That sounds good. Well, I've got something that will maybe suit your taste. So
Okay.
we're, we're happy to do that. So I would say with how long you've been doing the method, which is several years, you said since 2014, if you think of the entire journey and also through both, your pregnancies and coming back, what are the kind of results that you have personally experienced?
Let's see. So I'm 43 and I'm not looking to be like a bikini model.
Okay.
Um,
Me neither.
and I'm balancing, that kind of like internalized sexism that a woman has to be a certain size and shape, which I totally have. And I like looking good with, I honestly am in a place in my life where I want to feel integrated and centered.
Mhm.
Like after my second pregnancy, my center felt like splayed and I needed to, and it was like a metaphorical splaying of my center. Like I wanted to literally bring myself back home to myself after giving everything to these two human babies, little
Yeah.
people. Um, and the method is really giving me that. I feel both in both ways. Like my
Yeah.
size and shape is coming, and also um, it's a time. It's like a sacred time of my day
Yeah.
where it's just my body and my mind connecting in this insane way that I would never do otherwise. um, and then practically speaking, like I don't know if you can see me, like um,
Mhm.
I'm like reaching for my kid's water bottle, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Or like they're like, can we get that? I'm like, do 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 do. You know what I mean? Like it comes into my day in this really amazing kind of magical. The moves, I'm like, this is an actual move. Like I'm reaching for a cup.
Oh, that's so funny. I felt like that at the grocery store a few times, like getting apples or whatever, putting them into the bag or balls, and you can like get it.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
And as
that's
a mom, I find myself in moments of like physical shapes and loads that I did not want or anticipate. Like sudden shifts. Like suddenly a kid is on top, my 58-pound son is like on top of my body. And I'm like, whoa! Like you have to
yeah,
kind of have ninja skills to like not get injured. And yeah, yeah. So I feel protected, which is nice.
that is nice. So, is there a move, maybe even thinking back to your like metamorphosis days, that a lot of the moves still exist today? There's some that are like, this is here for life. But are there any that, like in the beginning, maybe you just really disliked or felt really challenging that now you feel like you can perform really well?
It's a great question. I love this question. I don't think I have a specific move, but pretty much when I first started last year, again, like more seriously,
Hmm.
pretty much every single new content day, I was like, no fucking way. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do that. And then I did. I slowly throughout the week could do it. And now new content day comes and I'm like, ooh, oh, this is fun. Or I'm like, oh my God, the class is over, you know? So that's a pretty marked change.
Okay. Well, I think that's good. Um,
Yeah.
because I know you mentioned when you were first starting, you didn't feel like you were performing, maybe just going through it and even still seeing results, which can be really rewarding. And then as you advance through it, things get not necessarily physically harder, although sometimes, but more mentally complex too. Like if you think of the
Yeah.
leap from intermediate to advanced, it's not necessarily that the moves are so much harder, but it can be the sequence. It can be how many steps to the move, and then also the tempo that you have to keep. Um, so yeah, it's kind of fun to sit back and reflect on how far you've come. Um,
Yeah, definitely at first the advanced class felt too much like a brain teaser. My brain was too tired.
yeah,
And now it does feel kind of fun. Like, oh, let's figure out this puzzle.
yeah. So, what do your friends and family think of the method? You mentioned that your husband was supportive and helped you kind of figure out how to get started, even with some of the content.
That
What?
was a long time ago, before he was even my husband.
Okay.
Um, Last night he said that I was buying too many workout clothes. I
I think.
was like, you are not wrong. I should stop. Um, there's a little bit of like, this is taking a lot of time.
Really?
Um, okay, so my kid, like my husband and I are in one bed, and then the next bed over is my daughter, and then the next bed is my son. So we're all in the same room.
Hmm.
They're 5 and 3. And I was like the human transition from sleeping to waking. Like they would come into my bed, and then
Hmm.
there'd be cuddle time and mommy compression wrestling time, and then the day would begin. And so I had to transit. At first, I couldn't decide when I would do the workout. And then now it's just like I wake up before they do
Hmm.
and I eat breakfast after them.
Okay.
That, which means husband has to do the wake up. He's not a morning person
Mhm.
and he has to give them breakfast, which sounds far easier than it is. These are not people who are like, whatever you want to make me, my dear father.
Sure.
That would be amazing. Yeah, so he has, what has helped a lot is he began exercising because of this.
Yeah.
So he started to do this thing called GMB. I don't know.
Oh.
But anyway, I showed him his workout. He's like, there's no way. And I was like, that's true. I don't think you're ready for that. Yeah, so he does it in the evening. He practices piano and then he does his workout and I'm putting the kids to bed. So we trade. Like he does morning and I do evening. And that's made things better. But
Yeah.
for a second, he was like, you're asking for a lot of time.
Even though it's 1 hour.
It's really not an hour. So, because you have to wake up, and then for me, I drink hot water. And then ideally, I would love to like feel my spine for 10 minutes before I begin moving to like release tension. And then there's the shower, obligatory shower after. For a while, I didn't do it. And
Yeah.
I also kept wearing the same workout clothes. I don't know. I wasn't quite ready to understand what I was doing. So it's about like I don't know, hour and a half, hour 45, really.
Okay. Well, it's good that, together you guys have worked out a balance to where he can support you and you can support him and you can both get, some physical activity time. And it's a great.
It's been amazing, actually. It's really moved us from the intensity of infancy and babyhood to like, okay, maybe we can be human beings who have some kind of autonomy.
Hmm. Well, I love that. Um, okay, I want to transition a little bit because I told you I was going to ask you about your hair because I'm
Yes.
with all natural textured hair. Um,
Yay.
so tell me, what is your like hair routine? Do you have to like wash and style it every day? Does Tam get in the way of that? Tell us, how do you make it look so great? I'm like, I
Oh
got.
my gosh. First of all, I love this question. I told you before, but talking about my hair is my love language. I'm obsessed with curly hair in part because just like a lot of things, for a woman to claim her curly hair is like a little bit of a revolution.
Hmm.
Like it's a little of an affront to the assumption that like women should have straight hair, which is a ridiculous white supremacy notion. So I've joined this group, Curly Girl Support Group. It's an international group, and you see people from India, from Africa. Like, it's
Yeah.
really gorgeous. I want to put that out there that it's more than hair. Hair has a big story, and to embrace your actual hair is a pretty huge FU to the patriarchy.
It is.
So what I practically do is I co-wash, so I
Okay.
don't use any shampoo, even with Tam. Um, and I just use a conditioner and you squish. So first I scrub it and to get it clean and then rinse it out. And then I add more conditioner and it's called squish to condish.
Oh yeah.
You know, I love it. And you get the hydration because curly hair gets really thirsty. It's not like straight hair. The shaft is differently shaped
Hmm.
and it needs like help getting water in there. And that's literally what I do. Then I don't do anything.
You
Sometimes
don't.
I flip it when I'm drying it.
You don't have to use any product.
I was for a while. Yeah, for a number of years, I could say, because I really got into it when I was rehabilitating after Therese was born. That was my little guilty pleasure, was like learning about curly hair. It's not a guilty pleasure, but my little obsession.
Yeah.
But now it's healthy. Now it's
Yeah.
healthy, and I only just need leave-in conditioner. Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, I love it. So we have interviewed. Her name is Atoya Bass, and she has her own curly hair studio.
Yay!
My idols, but I actually took an online course of hers. She taught like a virtual course with another friend of hers named Allison. And you're right, it is kind of a journey. You have to learn about it. You have to basically learn about your own hair and become
Yes.
your own hair. And there is something that's so empowering and freeing about that. But the other thing that's so cool, I feel like natural hair is having a comeback too, because
Yes.
I'm more familiar with it or something, but I see textured hair on TV shows, movies,
Totally. And
where
gray hair.
I love,
I got my hair cut yesterday,
yeah,
and I'll admit that wasn't a mistake. Like I saw the options for my interview and I was like, after my haircut, please. Um, but she like took a picture of my hair for her little gray hair gallery. She's like, I love the color.
I love
So
it.
it's exciting that women are finally celebrating how they actually are. I mean, that's fantastic.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I would message you for other tips too. Kylie has a question for you, which I'm excited to transition into this as well. Um, to understand a little bit more, what is your profession? Because we probably have to have you tell us that. And then how did you get into it? We'd love to know.
All right, roll up your sleeves, everybody.
We
No, I'll roll up my sleeves. You just like,
good.
um, yeah, so I am a Tibetan translator. Tibetan is a language
Mhm.
from a people in diaspora. They used to have their own nation before the Chinese occupation in 1959. So they are an indigenous people who were roosted from their homeland, and now they live all over the world. Some still in what was formerly Tibet, some in Nepal, some in India,
Mhm.
and all over the world. I used to be an oral interpreter for a Lama named Tulku Sangak Rinpoche. Shout out to Tulku Sangak Rinpoche. I was his interpreter for 6 years. He had many places in California. He has a center in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and in Western Montana. And then we also went all over the world together in that time. I even did it after Arlo was born, my firstborn. But then when I got this surprise pregnancy with my second, I was like, I can't travel anymore. So I transitioned to, I work for a foundation named the Namchak Foundation, and I do written translations from home.
Mm.
So I translate both like meditation rituals and also commentaries, more like contextual commentaries. It's very intellectual combined with spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And how did I get into that? How did I get into that? Let's say a short version. I'll, take me out for coffee one day or drinks, and I'll tell you a longer version. I was going to college in Prescott, Arizona, at Prescott College. It's a small environmental college.
Okay.
And I met a Tibetan Lama there named Garchen Rinpoche. He's actually a living Buddha. He's like a creature. He's not like a human. He's
Wow.
like a creature from another realm. And he doesn't speak English. He speaks Tibetan. So I heard his teachings through a variety of translators. Then I did a 3-year meditation retreat from 2005 to 2008.
Wow.
Yeah, with 6 other people.
Okay.
We each had our own cabins, and we weren't really supposed to talk to each other, but
Yeah.
other people were around. And I did my puja in Tibetan
Okay.
at that time. So I got more familiar with Tibetan. And then, but when I came out, he wanted me to be a little lama at one of his centers in the Polish section of Chicago.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to at all.
Okay.
And then he said, well, you can be a teacher. And then when other lamas come through, you can translate for them. And I was like, well, I don't speak enough Tibetan to translate. This was in Tibetan that I was doing this interview. And I was like, why don't I go study the language so I have the ability to do this? This was the way I kind of weaseled out of this position. So I went to Nepal. And then I never ended up going to that center in Chicago. And I lived in Nepal for 2 years. And then basically through karmic destiny, I met Tuku Sangak Rinpoche, and I got burned in a fire in 2011, and then I met Tuku Sangak Rinpoche in 2012, and then I've been with him ever since.
Wow. I'm definitely taking you out for drinks because I need the longer version of this also. Well, that's pretty incredible. I mean, it's so wild. It's like we need a movie about this experience or something. Like I feel
Yeah,
there could be one.
I'm writing a book. I'm
Oh,
writing a book right now, which is why I don't do dance cardio at the moment, because
okay.
I'd rather write this right now.
Okay. Well, I don't know how to transition back to this other question from Loretta. Back briefly for a second to your hair. She was curious if you do a diva cut or if you do any other type of like curly hair specialist cut, or do you go to?
Was it Loretta in Colorado? Because if it is, I go to the Station Hair Salon in Denver, and I cannot recommend them enough. They're specialized in curly hair, and they're awesome.
Cool.
Julia, go to Julia.
I'll make a note in case anybody else. Well, Julia. Do you live in Denver? Are you outside the
I
city?
live outside of Denver. I live um, just east of Boulder.
Okay. Cool. I did a short stint of living in Colorado, and I lived like outside of the Cherry Creek area for a
Oh,
couple
nice.
after college. I love Colorado.
Yeah, it's really nice here.
It's very flat, so I miss the mountains. Getting a little elevation change is always nice. So
Mm.
very cool. Okay. So I'm going to transition now back into Tamily stuff again. We're just going to
Okay.
go place.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Loretta, since she's in Colorado as well, I am curious now. Have you met up with some other Tamily locally? Tell us.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Lindsay, Gold Lion Project,
Okay.
Shannon S.B. Meyer, or something,
Uh-huh.
and Sherry, who she has Tam. Those
Mm-hmm.
are their handles. We went out for lunch, we walked around. It was my first time meeting anyone from the Tamily, and it was awesome. It really was like meeting friends.
Yeah.
And at that meetup, I was like, do you guys ever want to do the method together? I've never done it around any other humans.
Yeah.
And so we're planning, we, I'm like inserting myself, Sherry and other people are planning, and I'm going to
Gonna
meet up in January and we're going to do it together.
oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see some photos and videos from that trip. I think that's really cool. And just the idea of meetups starting to happen again, because obviously through the pandemic, things have been quite different. You couldn't travel as much. So
Yeah.
that'll definitely bring a lot of joy to a lot of people to see you guys get together. So, yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot of Colorado people.
there is. Yeah, there's people everywhere. I feel like you could probably go to any state and almost any country and meet somebody who's doing the method.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. I think Tracy has said it, there are members in more than 50 countries. I don't know the exact number, but pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yes. So, what would be your advice to somebody who is new to the method?
It's fun to hear these questions asked to me, you know, because I've seen them like so many times. It depends on who is asking and what sort of station of life they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a teen? Are you in your 20s? Do you have kids? What is your situation surrounding your decision to do the method?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to know that. I would just ask, what is your why?
Okay.
Why are you choosing to do this? What are you hoping to get out of it? And kind of zero in on your intention. And I would love a process of weeding through any messaging you may have about the size and shape your body must be in order to be worth it or worthy of having a full life. And try to peel that away, and do it for the joy of moving your body. Like it's a pleasure and a luxury and a privilege to have time to move your body every day and to connect, you know, your spirit and emotions and your body all together. This is like um, a beautiful opportunity that Tracy presents us with in the trainers. I find it very like emotional. Like it helps me move through emotions and show up like lighter and clearer for the rest of my day. So I would advise people to think of it less like something you're doing to look good in a bathing suit and more of something that you can do for yourself to help yourself have a full and beautiful life.
Well, I love that. Plus the fact that the way you responded is considerate of individuals, right? So, depending all these different stages and circumstances in life, the advice could vary, right? To try
Yeah.
help offer someone something that might be most helpful, specific to them. So, I appreciate that.
And I
Uh,
would love to say something to like moms, to especially to moms of little kids,
yeah.
to people that I would just love to say, of course it like, and that's a whole world, like how you choose to show up as a mom, what I think of as mother work is very individual, and I wouldn't assume that I understand your relationship to being a mother. I would love to say, especially for moms of like infants, like I'm just going to give my 2 cents here, take it or leave it. Infants need a lot of contact, and like it is a time for that your body's like a pillow for them. You are their entire world. Like your body is their entire world. I would just give yourself a breath or a moment to recover, you know, let your uterus come back together, and then you can worry about what you look like, you know. Um, okay. And also, it's hard to find time to exercise when you're a mom, especially if you have multiple young kids. It's hard.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend like having a nice, relaxed conversation with your partner if you have one, hopefully, where you're not stressed and you're not mad at each other. So like try to find that.
Yeah.
And where you say like, this is something that will help me show up for the family, and I really need this. Is there a way we could trade something where I get some time away from the kids every day.
Yeah, I like that. That's good advice. Especially because, again, everyone's life circumstances are different. You might not have the luxury of free time, and trying to figure out how to make time within a family schedule as well is important. So I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot out of that advice. So thank you for sharing that. Heidi has a question for you, and she was curious, have you ever gotten advice from the trainers to accommodate your lordosis?
No, and I really, every time someone says custom, I'm doing a custom, or the trainer told me this, I'm like, what is this world that I don't know anything about? So throw me a bone, people. Like, what do you, how do you get trainers' eyes on your body?
So, well, I mean, I can tell you, I'm sure somebody can respond in the comments as well. But there's an account called the Tracy Anderson Online Studio
Mhm.
that is managed and viewed regularly by the trainers. And I believe that you can send in a photo of yourself. They're probably going to ask for a swimsuit type photo. You can keep
Okay.
out of it, for privacy reasons, from front, side, and back, and then
Okay.
let them know what your goals are, and they can provide you some advice, especially more specific to what types of add-ons and things like that. So
Okay.
you can do that. The difference between what that is and what custom workouts are is totally different, though. So custom is, and if a trainer's watching, they can correct me because I'm not actually a trainer or anything like that, but I've asked a lot of questions.
You're
So
the liaison.
yes, I'll kind of be in the middle. A custom is if you're a member of the studio, and they will, based on analysis and actually having a deeper discussion with you about your goals, develop custom programming because Tracy, as you know, she has thousands of moves. And I think the magic behind her method is that it can be very tailored to individuals to help you get there. And so that's where you'll see some folks that are doing a move with the broomstick, and you're like, that's not in the class that I've seen, and stuff like that. So that's coming from customs. And I think you do those, they design one for you, you do it for 10 days, like 10 times, and then you do a different one. But it's probably not the type of thing that you would just do for one series of 10 and expect to have major changes. So it's kind of a
Okay.
different approach.
Okay.
So that's
Thank you.
the long and short of that.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
super interesting.
Lindsay has a question for you. Do you find, let's see if I can, I don't know. Can I read? Emily, can you read? I don't know. Take a meditative approach to your mat session, especially considering your background and experience.
I love that question so much. I'm really happy to talk about this. Hi, Lindsay. Congratulations on getting married, if that's the Lindsay I'm thinking about. So I've been meditating for 22 years, pretty, I want to say religiously is a little inside joke to myself, pretty religiously. Um, and one of the things that blows my mind about the method is how meditative it is. Like it's an actual meditation practice.
Yeah.
So when I'm, especially once the mat gets going, like after OC too, but I find if I have one errant thought, like I fall down or
Mm-hmm.
there's a break in my connection to my body. My mind has to actually stay in my body and in the moment that this particular movement is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think there might be a tendency to think of meditation as like a lovely state that you sustain,
Yeah.
when in fact, meditation is just awareness of any given state. And so that's another thing, that's another way that the method is a meditation to me is I feel emotions move through my system.
Mm-hmm.
I feel thoughts get woken up and churn around. And that's how meditation works. It isn't a static state that you sustain as much as awareness of the dynamic nature of like mental movements combined with your physical being.
So like awareness, if a thought comes up, right, that distracts you and you fall out of a move, you can acknowledge the thought and dismiss it so that way you can get back into focusing on what you're doing. Would you say?
Yeah. And, or, um, you're in the 15th rep out of 30 and your body is kind of doing something and you can kind of work through the thought like,
Yeah.
oh, I did have that conversation that did have an impact and I am sort of holding it in my stomach. Okay. And then you can like move through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Elizabeth said she's meditated for 30 years too, and this is so true. It's not always this blissful state. I would totally agree with that. I think there's a tendency for people to think it's just going to be like, oh, magical for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. A lot of my experience in the long retreat was tracking patterns. So we all have habitual patterns that have been laid in this lifetime and also that probably come from long before. We can call it ancestors or previous lives, however you want to frame it. And so like physical patterns and emotional patterns.
mhm.
And so it's an opportunity to like look in the mirror of your mind of why do I keep reacting this way to this? Like there's an inappropriately large reaction to something that's quite benign that must be on my side. Why? Where is this coming from?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah, and just being able to sit with yourself and reflect, even if you don't know the answer, just to consider, I think is helpful. Um, Especially before responding sometimes. It'd be good to sit for a little bit and
Yeah.
allow yourself to process. So Kylie has a follow-up question for you too, regarding meditation and if you did anything differently meditating when you were pregnant versus now being postpartum, for several years.
Oh. um, being pregnant for me, what was brought up for me was like a lot of like mental release, like just making space. So it's like a huge process of making space physically
Mm-hmm.
and then mentally. There's studies about the negative impact of stress on a developing fetus. So just a lot of like space and allowing. That's what I tried to do during my pregnancies. And I had a timbre of enduring because I did not enjoy being pregnant.
Mm. I can imagine. Because I have not experienced it, but I can just imagine you probably go through a lot of enjoy, not enjoy, enjoy, not enjoy. Maybe you don't feel like you have as much control over your body and things like that. That
Yeah, I mean, that's a very profound sharing of that's a very intimate sharing that you do with another person.
yeah,
I think if I wasn't living in a modern capitalist society and I could just like walk with my feet on moss, I might enjoy being pregnant, but like having to like continue to earn
yeah,
money and it was hard. I was so tired. Yeah.
yeah. I can imagine that for sure. So, what advice would you provide to somebody who could potentially be feeling unmotivated to do their workouts? Have you ever experienced any of that and worked through it yourself?
I love I love it. So I just love exercising. I mean, I think like I've heard a lot of people say here, just make it a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and habits are successfully formed through repetition. So if you're not feeling motivated, but it's something that okay, first, if you're not feeling motivated, is that because you don't want to do it at all? Cool, don't do it. Go do something else. Like you don't have to do this.
Right.
Or are you not feeling motivated, but you'd really like to get yourself over that hump and you'd like to continue? Make it a habit. Just be like, oh, it's 6:45 a.m. Like that's when I get up, and this is when I put on my leggings and go downstairs or whatever. I mean, like I have a physical habit of doing it every morning, and my body just wakes up and reaches for that warm water. And I have a bowel movement, which I have trained myself to do because I like to do that before I exercise. Like, we're real animals and we respond to rhythm. So I would say just build it into your day.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for sure. Do you have like a motivational quote or saying or something like that that you live by that you would like to share with the Tamily?
Oh, I wish I did. The quote that I heard most recently, so I'm writing, I'm in the middle of a pretty big writing project, writing the story of my burns because it happened 10 years ago, and I'm kind of processing through deeper layers through writing down the story. It's ending up being more like a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took my first writing workshop, and the facilitator said, art is to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. It gives you some perspective that not everything is, pretty and flowers and, whatever. Sometimes art can be very bold, writing can be very bold, it can move you. I always feel like you get the most out of it when it actually causes a reaction from you, whether it's positive or emotional or fear or something like that, tends to speak to you.
Hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, if what I'm doing, either through talking to someone or my work, or isn't somehow answering like, why are we on earth? Like, what are we doing with our one wild and precious life? I'm like, what are we doing? That's where I'm like most at home.
Yeah. So do you have a philosophy about working out that you ascribe to personally? I know you said you love it, so you just do it, but was it always like that or?
Um, I think through just tracking myself, I'm much, I need to move.
Mm-hmm,
Like I get depressed if I don't move my body.
mm-hmm.
Tracy calls it like taking care of your physical self. I really love that. I think that we have different selves. We have a physical self, an emotional self, a spiritual self. Um, so when I spend time every day connecting to my physical self, my other selves are better. They're
Yeah.
clear. I feel more available to
Mm-hmm.
engage with the rest of my life. Yeah, so I like to remember that we're animals and all animals need to move, need to eat, need to sleep, and we're the same.
Yeah. It's good to always kind of bring it back to the basics too. Everybody needs these fundamental things. We can't forget, who we are, what we are, and basic needs are pretty standard. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. So we have another question from Work in Progress Beta. And she said she was so excited to see this Ask Tamily and learn some more about your backstory. And she wants to know, what do you think is the meaning of life? This is a deep question, so it may be the one
I
that,
love it.
but I'm excited to hear.
That's so deep.
Yeah.
Um, I'll contextualize any response by this is like this moment, what I'll say in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly hope that my feeling about it evolves over the course of however long I have here. So I almost died 10 years ago. Um, I was very close to death. I'm going to slow down and really answer this question. And when you're close to death, life becomes very clear. And what matters and what doesn't matter gets very clear. And what didn't matter was any shoulds,
Mm,
any sense of obligation imposed from outside. And what did matter was love, and any way love expressed itself through me. So the people I'm connected to, like the art that I create, you know, my spiritual dimension, certainly. And then I feel an integral part of Buddhist training is acquainting ourselves with death and sort of preparing to die well. That's like a sign of mastery.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was my time, I kind of had that moment where it was my time to die. It wasn't scary. I felt like light and a profound sense of peace. So I would say the meaning of life is to keep in mind that we're all going to die and we have a very short time and we don't know how long that short time is. And as much as we can to like keep that at the forefront of our mind so that we can keep the priorities centered that are that matter and let all the other shit go.
Yeah. I love it. I'm sure so many others will also. And thank you for sharing that. I know that you're opening up and being vulnerable with us, which we appreciate. And it's also, to me, just another great sign of feeling safe in the Tamily community, right? Because everybody is supportive. And anyway, I love that. So that's almost like a perfect way for us to, we have just a couple minutes left. I've enjoyed talking with you so much. I feel like this time has flown by.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, before we wrap, is there anything else that you just want to share with the Tamily while you have this audience and whoever is going to watch it in perpetuity, whether on Instagram or on YouTube? Anything else that you would like to say?
It's been so nice to talk with you, Emily.
Great.
I'll just say what feels so inspiring to me about the Tamily is like this kind of warrior energy of like we're opening ourselves to challenge
Mm-hmm.
and we're rising to challenge, and that's really exciting to me. And I feel that this time on earth is really chaotic and there's a lot of unknowns right now, and it doesn't feel that we're settling back into known territory. It feels that that shifting is continuing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can utilize that kind of warrior energy to meet this moment of the wild unknown. And if we're feeling anxiety, which makes sense, we can also frame it as a kind of excitement in how can we step into this mysterious, forceful time, and how can we use our workout to kind of bring good into a lot of other into a place where there's a lot of other forces.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to close. And I think that's actually another excellent kind of nugget of advice for people to consider is the workout's one thing. You experience the workout while we're going through societal changes and unrest and, all of these other things. And how can you kind of pull that in to be able to help you, right? Because things are scary and sometimes the fear doesn't go away. You just have to do it while you're still afraid. But knowing that you've got this warrior community that's doing it, you don't feel alone. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it. So, oh my God. Well, it's been awesome to talk with you. I can't wait until I can travel to Colorado and come meet you.
Yay, come
And
to Colorado.
there in a few years, but I will certainly be back. And so we'll have to go have cocktails and
Yes.
more of the story as well. So, with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. Thank you for making time to talk with us. We love learning about you. And I can't wait for this to go up on all of the areas that it's going to live forever. So we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.